That's not me, is it? No, that's Jim Smith. Okay. I'm saying, that doesn't look like me.
You look great.
Thank you.
Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call the school committee meeting to order. At this time, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am not Paul Brennan, as the name tag reads. Tonight, we have to reorganize the school committee. So at this time, I'll accept nominations for chair.
I'd like to nominate Bruce Edwards for chair.
Second.
I have a second. Do I have any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And there are no opposed. Congratulations, Bruce. Here's your seat. Paul?
You just couldn't wait to get out of there, could you?
Nah, I just don't like that.
Do you?
I'm gonna do this.
What are we doing? I'll just.
I'm just gonna sit here and watch you guys run
Get this all
around.
done before the lights turn green again.
Notice I didn't move.
Thanks.
This chair's not good.
None of them are.
It's one.
It's one.
There's one of them that looks a little bit tall.
Guess we need to have a nomination for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Paul Brennan as vice chair.
Second.
Sorry. Dying over it.
Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. So that's 4 and 1 abstention. Nominations for secretary?
I make a nomination for Kristen as secretary.
Second?
Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, terrific. Thank you. Next item is the Citizens Forum. Just a reminder that discussion or comments regarding individuals should be avoided so as not to violate any individual's rights. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The minutes from May 21st, and the bill schedules 2 from May 24th and May 31st.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's this next one that's gonna be really long.
Is it the student update, Sophie Briggs and Nora Garvey?
They canceled today? They did. Okay.
I have to pull this one closer. Yeah, okay. All right, so today we have a lot of senior stuff to talk about. Graduation happened. It went really well. The band played and the chorus sang and everyone got their diploma. It was great. And that's the important thing. Everyone graduated. And then preceding graduation, we had class day, which is like our school's way of kind of doing a smaller graduation ceremony for the parents that can't make it to graduation or the students that can't make it to graduation. And the seniors put together a video and they worked on it all year long, and it was a really good and well done. A group of boys did it. It was their independent study at the beginning of the year, and then it turned into their internship once internship started, and it came out really well. They really captured, I think, the essence of the senior class, so it was really nice. And the band also performs at class day, and so does the chorus. It's pretty much as close to graduation as we can do it. And we also do academic awards for the seniors that day, and it went very smooth, and it was good. And then preceding that, the seniors had senior week, which is where they do all of their fun, like, senior events. And they did a grad night at Six Flags. They went on a dinner cruise. They did whitewater rafting, which I heard was very cold. And then we had the internship fair which concluded the seniors internships with Mr. Marcucci, their program. And it was really cool to go around and see like all the experiences they all had with their different internships. Like my friend Kyla, she did an internship off campus at the senior center, and it was really nice to see how it went for her and how it shaped like what she wanted to do preceding, or I think that's the wrong word, after college. So it was really nice to see like all of them. And some too, I was talking to, I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about how their internship changed their mind about what they wanted to do for their college major. And I thought that was really interesting, and I think that's a really nice opportunity that our school has, because some students think they're on like a set path when it comes to college and what they want to do, and then once they get out and have real world experiences, their minds change. And I think that it's really helpful that we have a program that lets students do that when they're in high school. So I think that was really nice. And that's all of our like senior activities. Nora has stuff too.
So tomorrow the boys decathlon will start, and same with the girls pentathlon. Girls pentathlon was supposed to be today, but the rain made it postponed till tomorrow at Shepherd Hill. Baseball, they made playoffs, and so did boys and girls tennis. And we had concluded all AP tests, and I only took one this year. I took the AP Lang test. Sophie, which ones did you take?
I took AP US History and AP Lang as well.
Friday the 15th, we will start finals, and on Friday we'll have 3 finals. And for students who have 3 like hard finals, they're able to change one to one of the makeup days if they just have to talk to their teachers. And then we have 2 on the following Monday, Tuesday. And then this Friday we have all the academic awards for the underclassmen.
That's our update.
That's it.
Terrific.
That's great. There's a lot. Thank you.
Got a busy week.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a service trip to Haiti. Mr. McCarthy, Isabella Gamble, Hannah Veely, and Jenna Salem.
No, no. There you go.
There we go. They're all bad though.
Okay, so I'm Isabella Gamble. And so like a little bit over a month ago, I had Hannah and Jenna like help me present the idea to go to Haiti to Mr. McCarthy. I had a couple friends who went to Haiti. I have one of my parents' friend's son. He went to Haiti, and I saw all the pictures, and like he like said how much he loved it and how like how great experience it was. And then I had my friend go with St. John's, and he also really loved it. And they all went with Be Like Brit. They really loved it. Like he said how amazing it was. Like he went on and on and on about it. And then I had my friend Michaela went with Holy Name, and she came back in December, and she just showed me all the pictures. She just went on and on how much she loved it, and how she would go back, and like how it was just such a great experience, and like how it was like really life changing. And I was like thinking, oh, I really would love to do something like that. So I texted Hannah and then Jenna, and then we were like, we should start this at the school, swim to Miss McCarthy, and we started planning.
So a lot went into like deciding where we wanted to go. So at first we kind of were looking at everywhere, and then after realizing that taking a bunch of high school students on a 15-hour flight to Africa probably wouldn't be the best idea, we started looking at more local organizations and more organizations that would be closer and probably would attract a lot more students. We ended up meeting with the woman, I forget what her name was, Shelby from Be Like Brit, and she came in and kind of gave us a little presentation, and she told us the story about how Brittany was a girl from Worcester who died in the earthquake in Haiti, and she was missing for 33 days, but was ended up found. And in her honor, her parents started an orphanage down there for 33 kids and 33 boys, or 33 girls and 33 boys. And we really loved the idea, and Jenna will talk about like what we will do, but the way she was presenting it to us, it was really cool to see like what we were going to do. And she showed us some of the pictures and videos, and we kind of fell in love with the idea of going there. So that's where we decided to go be like Brit and move things along a little bit more.
Okay, so the plan for our trip is that we'd fly down on Sunday, and then from Monday we'd meet the family and introduce ourselves, get to know them. And then from Tuesday to Thursday, we'd build the house for our family. And within that time, we'd get to visit Haiti, get to know the kids and hang out with the families more. And then on Friday, we'd basically present the house to the family and basically give it
Like a house blessing.
A house blessing.
Like ceremony.
Yeah. And on Friday, we'd get to hang out for that day before we left on Saturday.
I covered it too. So where we're at the process right now is on when did we have the meeting? Friday. On Friday, we had an interest meeting. We did morning announcements, and we said anyone who's interested in participating in the meeting, come to a meeting. We had about 25 kids and probably another 5 kids who emailed me saying they couldn't make it. At that meeting, we did sort of a little bit of a longer version of this presentation. We showed a video from the organization so the kids could kind of visualize what they would be getting into, what the service trip is all about. And we then sent home a permission, like a preliminary permission slip. So what we wanted was for kids to go home and talk to mom and dad and say, hey, this is an opportunity at the school. It's not approved yet, but they're exploring it, and should it become approved, would you give me permission to apply? One of the hang-ups with Be Like Brit is that it's a limited trip. It's not like Italy where Mr. Bailey took 35 kids. It's a smaller group, so there's only 13 students who can attend, along with 2 chaperones. So of the 25 that were in the room, you assume that probably 5, 6, or 7 will say thanks but no thanks. But then we'll probably have more kids who apply than we actually have spaces available on the trip. So then there'll need to be some sort of application process beyond the 3 student leaders here who have organized the trip for who gets the other 10 seats on the trip. We talked a little bit about wanting to have this be an every other year event. And so in that instance, we'd probably want to prioritize the older kids. But if you are a sophomore, you might miss that window. So we'll come up with probably an application process that is an essay, similar to like what we did for the DC trip, and have a blind read, have faculty members score the essays, and what I will have the kids do though is put their grade on there, so that a little bit of weight, if it's one essay scores an 8 and one essay scores a 9, and this one's a senior and this one's a freshman, well, the freshman's going to get another chance, the senior's never going to get another chance. So if it's 1 point away or something like that, we might weigh that in. The other factor is that, and this is something I have to check with the organization tomorrow if you guys approve the trip, is that the way that they do the rooming down in Haiti, it's groups of 4 or 5. And so either 4 boys go or no boys go. So it can't just be 1 or 2 boys. So at the meeting the other day, there was 1 boy. These guys say there might be others. We actually haven't done a hard push yet for recruitment for boys, simply because we're not approved yet. But I'm also going to call the organization tomorrow and say, hey, this is the situation. I'll just see what the hard parameters are around that. But they might just say, well, if you only have 1 boy, then he can't come. So that would be their decision, not ours.
Would the chaperones count? If you had a male chaperone and you
The chaperone, no, the chaperones, I'll ask that question, but currently the chaperones sleep separately. So. And I'll just say, for me, in the school, we have the World Language Department does a great job of doing cultural trips with the guys. Mr. Billy went to Italy, and those are great trips. But we talk a lot about wanting kids to get outside the Sutton bubble and experience life in a different part of the world or just in a different community, doing something that's not just sort of taking it in, but also giving it out. So to have kids who are interested and want to go do good in the world and experience something that they wouldn't otherwise get the chance to do, I think really aligns with what we're trying to teach kids. I mean, it speaks to their character that this is the kind of thing that they're interested in. They didn't say, hey, can we go to Ireland? Or can we go to Italy again? They said, hey, we want to go do something positive for people who need some help. And the opportunity to talk, once we have the group of kids, to be able to talk to them about what that really means, to read books about Haiti, to understand what their culture is, so that we're not going in there as, you know, flying in, flying out, but really to get a sense of who the people are and what they need and what we can do as Americans, I think is a really valuable experience for these guys to have. So I think it's just a great opportunity that we could potentially take advantage of.
I would agree. I read the documentation on it, and again, I find it very impressive, and I commend you for picking such a thoughtful trip. And I do think it's such a great opportunity to give students from Sutton a real perspective of what a lot of the world deals with. So thank you. That's great. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Could you just address, because this is a school week, so these students, 13 students, will miss, what, 4.5 days?
4.5 days. So the students, once we pick the group of students, they will have to sort of coordinate with their teachers, understand what they're going to be missing, and then make up any missed work when they get back. I won't expect them to be doing homework after they've been building a house and working in an orphanage all day. I think that takes away from the value of the trip. But where they can be doing work in advance to get ahead of the class, or if there's a system in place so they can catch up when they get back, and there'll be due dates, and they'll have to meet those due dates, and that's part of what they're buying into when they go on the trip. They're taking on the extra work when they get back because they want the experience.
Would these be considered excused absences?
I would say that these would be considered regular school days.
It'd be
It's part of a field trip, so it'd be
Okay.
regular school days.
A lot more
Okay.
than 4 days in Haiti then.
And would the hours be, would students who are in the National Honor Society and go on this trip, would these be considered service hours for them?
I haven't thought about that. I'd have to say yes.
It's a double dip.
Well, probably not like during, like, you know, not maybe like during school day, but from my understanding, you get up at 6 and you're working all day. It's not like you're hanging out at night on your phone. So I think it'll be a busy day for these guys, so I have to believe we can come up with some sort of like set number.
Okay.
I think that makes sense.
I mean, it sounds like a positive view of it, so I would make a motion to approve the service trip to Haiti as presented.
Second.
Any further questions?
The only piece
I just had one other question. I'm still in full agreement, but
Yeah.
apart from the essay and how articulate someone might be, is there any weight given to experience building houses?
So one of the questions,
It's for students.
that we, you know, because if you do some research on service trips, you sort of a real concern is that it's more for the benefit of the kids than the actual, the residents.
Okay.
And so oftentimes, or sometimes I should say, what will happen is you have these well-meaning Westerners who will go into these third world countries and they do some labor, and after the kids leave, the actual workers come back and have to make up the work and fix the work that the kids have actually done. So when you're actually working on the work site with the staff, would be like, Britt, the contractors are right there with you, saying, bang this nail into this board this many times. So like they're doing like sort of quality control, so that they're not asking these guys to, you know, frame houses by themselves.
Right.
Like one whole day is just literally carrying rocks and cement from one point to the other, and that's an entire day of work. But these guys get to do that because otherwise it's just not going to get done.
Right.
So they're doing more of the grunt labor, and I think some of the fine tuning, you know, actual making of the house, which is a really, really simple, small house, is done by the contractors on site.
I just have a quick question about the airline costs. I know they said they've allowed for $750. So if you guys end up seeing that your flight to Haiti is $1150, are you going to try as a group to bring down that price? Or how I know you were talked about fundraising there, but how might you address it if it is truly more for everyone?
We'd have to fundraise, or the kids would have to pay the additional fee. My sense of it, talking to the representative from Be Like Brit, was I think that was sort of like a high-end estimate, and that's what they're allowing for. Again, when I check with her tomorrow about a couple of things, that'll be one of the questions I can ask.
And is there some type of security? Again, I mean, if memory serves, Haiti is still on a watch list with the State Department.
Yeah, so there's a, when you go down there, there's a Be Like Brit staff member who's with you the entire time. There's a Haitian guide, a local resident who's working as your guide with you the entire time, 24/7. there's staff in the actual orphanage 24/7, and then the security guards in the orphanage 24/7, and the entire orphanage is walled and gated and locked.
Are you building a house within the orphanage grounds, or?
Off grounds, but the security guard goes with you off grounds, with the contractor, with the guide, with the Be Like Brit staff person, with the residents, and with the other workers who are there.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Great idea. Good luck.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the student handbook changes for the Early Learning Center in the elementary school. We've got Jess Merriam and Denise Harrison. Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Nice to see everybody again. So I just wanted to start just by giving you a few highlights from the year. We had our last faculty meeting today. So I had the chance just to check in with my teachers and just ask them the question, okay, I'm going, this evening, what should I say as the highlights of the year? And we actually came up with a list, and I won't share them all. But I think the biggest one that I heard from the teachers is, and it works really well actually with one of our goals, but we've been using for the year a program called Mystery Science, and it aligns with the new STE goals. And K through second, my teachers are loving it. The kids are loving it. It's been a huge resource, and they've just made such nice use of it. And they are watching videos, they're getting projects from it, the kids can ask questions, and it's just been a huge resource. And so it's just thoroughly enjoyed all year long. So we've been making great use of that. It's been a highlight. And just don't ask the second grade teachers about cornmeal, because they've been doing a cornmeal project from that, where they've been making canyons and talking about land erosion, and they're a little all done with cornmeal at the moment. Another fun look back at the year was for National Picnic Day. We took out all the tables in our lunchroom and laid out plastic, tablecloths, and told the kids it was National Picnic Day and that they had to feel the breeze and shoo away the bugs and pretend that they were on a picnic, and they thought it was the best thing and had a blast. And we took some pictures, and that was in coordination with our new food service director, Samantha. It was her idea. She's done a great job making some really kid-friendly changes to the menu, and so that was another really big highlight from the year. So, just wanted to share some fun things. So, some of the changes that we wanted to make in the handbook for my building was that in the beginning of the book, I wanted to just add a little letter from myself. It seemed like it was sort of a little dry and not very welcoming, so I just added a little note from me, just kind of welcoming everyone, giving a little bit of our philosophy of the school. That's on page 6. I also added on page 12 just a little bit more information about our badges and the requirements for wearing the badge in school, because we've had some not necessarily huge differences, but we've been very serious about implementing some of the changes that we've made this year. And so, we're pretty hardcore. You don't get through the building anymore without having your badge on. And I think that that's a good thing. So we just wanted to make that a little bit more clear, that it needed to be out, visible on you the entire length of your visit. And then to go along with that, we've also been dealing with our little tiny parking lot at parent pickup, and we're trying to ease some of the congestion there. So it actually wasn't quite clear in the handbook about how to use the parking lot, so I just trying to clear up some of the language around that, and having all the cars going in the same direction. Enough said. So again, just trying to get that worked out. And just clearing up, we're gonna make some changes, to parent pickup. And so, I spelled that out in there, cause as you can imagine, that's probably my, most stressful point in the day, those 20 minutes where we're trying to get, 2 buildings worth of kids in all the right places at all the right time. And, so we're just trying to really work out some of the bubbles in that.
How many reminders do you have to send out during the year about this?
Well, we send out a few emails.
Would it be,
Let's
would
see.
it be helpful if a little map or diagram was put on the website to help people too? You can't make people go to the website to see it,
Right.
but, I mean, anywhere where you can
Send it to 'em.
visualize, visualize and send a map or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The biggest deterrent is having school resource officer out there to get the pattern going right away.
Well, and real quick, because I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this, but maybe the school resource officer, if there's something they can do, like the recommendation at the high school, that might encourage people to go one way versus another. A couple cones, and sure, buses go around, but cars not so much, so
Right,
that's a potential. All right.
absolutely. On page 16, we need to update the school committee roles via tonight's voting. So that's just a little change. On page 23, again, just sort of a little bit more of the changes that we're going to make to the parent pickup routines. Just trying to really make it a little bit more secure, make sure we know who's going with who at the end of the day. Putting a little bit more of the responsibility on the parents to make sure that we know who's going with who at the end of the day. And I expect there to be some feedback, grumbling about it, but my take on that is that's all right, that they're gonna, if there's some upset, it's worth it, because ultimately we need to make sure that the kids are safe and going where they need to be, and that we will work out some of the kinks and it will get faster as we get into the new process. Let's see. The playground. So I wanted to just add a few things to the playground rules. Surprisingly, I spend a little bit more time than I thought talking about dog poop on the playground. So we would really like to send home that message that dogs are not allowed in the playground area or on the fields around the playground. We often are calling for the poor custodial staff to go pick up dog waste, and then are changing kids' shoes and clothing because they are tracking through it and then getting it on the playground equipment. So we would really like to get it in our handbook that dogs are not allowed in that area. And also putting in a line that the rules that we have at school for the playground use of the equipment also applies before and after school as well. So that if parents are out there during those times, that they really should be enforcing the same rules just for the safety reasons. So going down the slide, not climbing over on top of the equipment, just again for safety reasons. In the pages 30, it's really just taking out a couple of chunks of information that's specific to the middle school and high school. This is the, our SEL, we don't really need that information, so figured get rid of it. And on page 33, it talks about inclement weather having to do with lunch, and we've switched it. So we actually do lunch first, and then, recess first and then lunch. So again, it's just taking out that block because it no longer applies to what we're doing. The next change is on page 34, and that was just updating it so that it actually accurately corresponds to when we're sending out report cards. And finally, we needed to put something in, so I worked with our nurse's office we have a lot of parents sending in sunscreen and or bug spray and asking our teachers to put it on their kids, and really that's not something we can do for a lot of reasons, including that we don't have the time, and that technically we can't, it's sort of the same thing as over-the-counter medication, that we can't be putting it on children without the doctor's orders. So we're putting it in here, and I'm gonna be sending home an email blast to the parents, just letting them know that they're encouraged to put it on their child before school, that we can do hats, glasses, and, you know, that there's some, you know, clothing and things like that that we can do, but we're just not gonna be able to put sunscreen on their child once they're here at school. And that's the excitement for me.
Okay.
All sounds very reasonable.
Yeah, they are, and I think that's great what you're doing about having the parents, you're truly verifying that the right child's going home with the right person. We do that at well, we don't, I don't personally anymore, but at TNOs, that's what we did. Whoever's coming in, who are you taking? Who's going with you? So, started early, I'm fine with that. And as far as sunscreen, you can also add in there that in order for it truly to be maximally effective, it needs to be applied at least 15 to 30 minutes, prior to going outside. So if you put it on ahead of time,
So if you put it on before lunch,
Yeah.
then they can have it for recess after lunch.
Which we don't do.
No.
Which we don't do.
we don't do. So doing it in the morning makes sense.
And
Just get them in a good habit. They should be putting sunscreen on first thing anyway, because you should always have sunscreen on before you go out. So, sorry, that's my little house spiel.
are there signs out there about dogs and cleaning up after your dogs in the playground?
Yeah,
They're
Okay.
there
however,
Around.
We're adding some additional signage.
Okay.
with some
Yeah.
monetary,
Yeah.
yeah.
you have some repeat
I
offenders
don't think it's
out
just
there.
parents either. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
walk dogs.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
I spend a little too much time
In dog poop,
on this
really?
particular subject.
One more thing, sorry. It actually will apply to both of you. I'm a big one about grammar and the subject and pronoun agreement and a few other things. So, if you want me to point it out. Sure. Sorry. I just went, oh, so, anyway. I know.
I'm usually a bug about that.
I
so.
know, and you guys, you know, I understand, you got a lot to do. So, I'm your proofreader, how's that?
That's good. Great. The school council does a good job also with finding
Yeah, a couple sets of
grammar
eyes.
mistakes and that. Yeah. About mine?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, I have very few. So just updating the school staff on page 1, updating the school committee members and school council members, which has changed a little bit. Taking the wording on page 3 from Jess, or where traffic enters a lot, then takes the first right, where she changed that. That's going into mine as well, where it's the same parking area. So all the parking, if you look through, is changed, if which shows the wordage that Jess had made. School choice, page 12, says only if there is availability. More of the parking again on page 12 and 14. School choice was 12, parking at the school 14. And then just one word in the student behavior in school expectations, we changed the word appropriate to expected behavior. And that is it for the elementary school.
Okay. Any questions? That's great.
Great.
Okay. I guess we can move on to the school improvement plan updates.
Do you want a motion on this?
Do we need to have a motion on this?
I think on the handbook.
Yeah.
Oh, I
We
think
do.
we do, yes.
Make a motion to approve the changes to the Simonian Center and elementary school handbooks as presented.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So that brings us to talking about how we have done on our school plans. And so for my building, our first standard was to work on our STE frameworks and adding 5 units of instruction
that go along with the new science frameworks. And we definitely met our goal. I give my teams a bunch of credit because not only were they bringing on this new curriculum and standards, but we were also sort of getting it into the Atlas Rubicon, which has not been our best friend, but we've been learning to play nicely together. It is not necessarily a program that is well suited for our age group, but we are working really hard to make it user-friendly for our kids and for what we're doing, but that takes, a little bit of time, but we're getting there. So we have had actually pre-K through second grade as teams put in the whole units on science, and it's everything from talking about how snowmen melt to, again, doing the erosion units and lots of stuff in between. And looking forward, all the teams actually would like to have more time to work on this to refine what they've done, since we've only sort of run these programs through once, these units through once, to have a chance to really kind of plug and play, make the adaptations, put in some more of the DI strategies, things like that. So we're really, in the future, asking for more time to really finalize what we have in there.
DI is?
Differentiated instruction. Sorry, our little jargon. And so that is a little bit into standard 2, which is was to come up with the DI lists for those instructions. And again, that's something, once you spend more time actually putting the units out there, working with the kids, seeing what strategies we need for the kids who are struggling with the bits and pieces of it, that's something that will build over time. So again, as we go through it, as we finish it this year, as we put it in place next year, those are things that we're going to go through and say, oh, wow, I found this really great thing. And it might be something that one teacher does in one room and then puts it in there, and another teacher goes, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. And it's all in the same spot, so they can all be using it. It's all a huge resource for them as a team. So again, we're really hoping to move forward and do some more with that next year. Our third goal was family and community engagement, was to hold another event. And so what we did again this year was we held another family math night, but this year we included some of the STE challenges in it. And so this year we had over 300 attendees, and we had a bunch of our math activities that we updated, and we had STE challenges such as building a boat and seeing how many pennies you could get on it. We had one of our teachers building an octagon web, so it looked like a honeycomb. So everyone who came in got to decorate one of those, and we hung that up. We had a measuring your own snack pudding cup, so you were making your own dirt cup for your worm to stick out of. Mr. S came in and did some gym and movement stuff and had some math components in it. So again, it was a really fun, just good night, and we had a lot of families who had a great time and really enjoyed it. So as they left, they got to take home a bag that had random activities for them to go home and do a different STE activity. So, it had a different group of materials and a little suggestion of, oh, what can you do with these? And it was like, build the tallest bridge you can, or use this to build furniture for the animal inside, or, some sort of challenge for them to do as a family. So they got to take that home as they left. And our fourth and last goal was for professional development around the Atlas Rubicon and the time to work as a professional learning community, to get to know it and to put in all of these units. And I would have to say we did get a lot better at using it. Each of the grades, if you go in and were to look at it, they all look a little different. I didn't sort of give them the mandate of, here's what it needs to look like across our building, because what they're doing in kindergarten looks so dramatically different than what they're doing in the second grade. But what I told them of what I didn't want, which was for them to go in and type in our, investigations or our foundation's curriculum. I wanted them to really talk about what they were doing, what it should look like in the classroom. Here's the materials, here's some books, here's some stories, so that the materials were there, the standards were there, and then they could build their lessons from it, not just, okay, go to page 43 and read what it says. And I think that they took that on, and it looks really nice.
Perfect.
Okay. So for standard 1, curriculum planning and assessment, we met some goals, and almost met one. Smart boards for the elementary school, and I can say that was one of our goals, to have them in the classrooms, and they're gonna be, in all classrooms in the, elementary and early learning center. They're putting them in July, so that's very exciting. The teachers are thrilled. All of our math units have been mapped in Atlas Rubicon for grades 3, 4, and 5. This summer, the teachers that have taken on this task will be working on the English language arts and science units. So that goal was significantly met. We still have obviously more to do. But now that all of our next generation science standards have been aligned and implemented, that's just a matter of putting it into the, mapping it into the Atlas Rubicon. We were trying to make a decision whether to stay with Dibbles Next to assess reading. That's a reading program that assesses fluency and comprehension, and the decision was made to stay with it and not to look for something different. Standard 2, teaching all students. We made significant progress with regard to our grammar and writing program. We use mentor text curriculum units to teach grammar, which incorporates writing. That has been widely well received by the staff, and their knowledge of grammar and using it in their writing is increased significantly. I'm anxious to see how that shows in some of their upcoming assessments. That's going to continue on as well. For 2018-2019, we're going to have a school-wide district writing goal. So we're meeting on the 26th and 7th of June across the district with teachers and administrators to start this process. The second goal I had for teaching all students was to continue to look at differentiating instruction through response to intervention groups. Those are small groups where we can attend to students for different specific needs that they may need more support in. And teachers met to review data using Dibbles Next, MAP, which is Measuring Academic Progress. That's an online test they take, and MCAS, along with common assessments. And this will continue to be a goal. For standard 3, family and community engagement, we had training provided by 2 teachers for the Atlas Rubicon, and we had a meeting where parents could hear about that. We held a family and literacy night event in December, and in March, March Madness night again for the 2nd year. This year we were able to get Greg Tang. He's a math guru in. His junior. His father is very well renowned, and his son is now following in his footsteps. And he came in and spent the day with the students, meeting in different groups, and then he came at night for the event for families, which was really, he had games and set up, and they could win prizes, and the families rotated between centers, and it was a lot of fun. So, and our other goal is the common writing goal. And again, to bring that alive across all areas, and that's still a goal for us. Professional culture, one of the goals was to have all teachers to continue to be SEI endorsed, so they can have EL students in their class. Not 100%, all but one teacher is endorsed in our school, classroom teacher. We still have a few other teachers in other specific areas to be trained. And my other goal for myself was teacher evaluation, which I continue to, work hard at all the time. And for that. Lastly, through the district learning team, which we met all last year on diversity, different cultures, racism. So out of that, for our school, we decided to create a diversity council, and in conjunction with Jess's school, And Sarah Stone, a parent of 2 students, one in Jess's school, one in my school, has spearheaded it. She's been amazing. A lot has been done in a short amount of time, because we've only met like 3 times. And going forward, we'll be meeting all of next year. And so far, 100 books were donated, all about diversity and different cultures, and there's an area in our library set up for all the teachers pre-K to 5 to utilize these books. And the minute they came in, the teachers had their hands all over them, because everybody loves beautiful books. So that was one thing that's already been accomplished. We already accomplished something else. We have 2 buddy benches going into each school. Buddy bench is a pretty nice sized bench, and they'll have the name of the school on it, and we'll say buddy bench, and it's kind of where a kid can sit, and if a kid notices another child is sitting there alone, they might go over and ask them to play, or there's a whole thing on it, curriculum on it as well. So they were donated by PTO and SEFT, the grants from them. So that council's big, that's why I wanted to make sure I mentioned it here tonight. And we have many other ideas of what we're gonna be doing next, so stay tuned.
Terrific.
That's great, thank you. Hearing about the diversity council on the buddy bench, fantastic.
It's nice to hear that there's a parent volunteering
Yes.
with
Yes.
energy.
Oh,
That's
she
huge.
does quite a bit. And then there's other parents on that council, Rachel Tufts is, yeah, and, so Lindsay Connors, Elizabeth Rudge, not Elizabeth Rudge, I'm sorry, Elizabeth Reed Erickson.
Terrific.
So, yeah, more are coming.
Where did all the books come from?
Sarah's magic
Magic.
influence over
Awesome.
her crowd there. She's got these magic people that she is in contact with.
That's good.
That's great.
For next year, what are you starting to think about? How are you gonna make it work? I hate to say what's most troubling, but as you start to think about next year and how it's lining up, what are you not quite sure how you're gonna figure out yet?
Well, our goal will be for the writing, as far as academics, and continue to be a focus of inputting the data continually into Atlas Rubicon. That's a focus. For me, what are you thinking, Jess?
One of the things that sort of I'm up on my soapbox about is
It's not gonna be dog waste, is it?
no, I'm done about the poo. So, I really just so interested in making my building more child focused. I think you can see the stress in my kids, and it really upsets me that I have kindergartners who are stressed about getting things wrong and how they're scoring, and they're worried about their performance. And so I spend a lot of time researching how we can bring play into our classrooms. I'm a huge proponent of it and all the different kinds of play. I've been talking to my teachers about it all year. And I'd really like to think about how to bring different kinds of play in, working with centers and themes really as the base of our instruction. I see that face.
It's a good face.
No, that's,
It's a supportive face.
that's huge.
We have had conversations, and a lot of them with Ted, about how there's a lot that's important about our instruction and sort of having that assessment. But there's so much to be said also for not having that be what's focused and what our goal is. And I'm a strong believer in, if we're allowing these kids to enjoy their experience and being able to learn in the way that fits their brain at this point where they are, then it's not going to be stressful. It's going to be fun, and they're going to be so much more engaged in the activities and the way that they learn at that point. It's not going to be stressful. It's going to be fun, and they're going to want to read, and they're going to want to go on to these next things, and they're going to want to explore because they're having fun and they're doing it in the way that they're supposed to be doing it.
That's great to hear, because I know one of the top focuses when we finished up DLT this year was maybe bringing forth teaching people how to fail.
Yeah.
And in today's society, I think kids get a lot of anxiety about always trying to be right or always trying to be in front of things, and it's very stressful. So
Yeah,
that's
being-
great. I'm glad to hear there's focus on
agree.
that as well.
I agree. I mean, being able to just show that it's not a failure, it's a learning experience. And how do you take that, how do you move on? Because you don't want to squash that passion, and that's huge, so.
And that's why all those STEM
I'm-
activities that we talk
Oh, yeah.
about are so wonderfully
Hit the
hands-on and
hands-on
authentic.
stuff, because that's what they do at that age.
We've talked about that a lot, about the
And-
authentic learning experiences, learning through authentic learning experiences, and I commend you, Jess, I think that's awesome.
No, I do. I've got a quick question for you. So I guess, you know, just in hearing about all of this and being able to plan for things, I guess my question to you is, what would you like to see in professional development days? And what do you feel you need as far as professional development needs, professional development time in order to achieve what you want to do? Sorry, it's a mouthful, but it's more of me getting at those half days. To me, that's useless. I'm sorry, Ted, you know I speak my mind, but that's how I feel. Those half days are useless. You just get rolling and your time is over. And I just think it's better
I
spent.
do think there is value in the half-days.
Okay.
I will only say that because I, ask for a report back. I have this form I give
Okay.
them. And I do feel like we have had good success with,
Okay,
as having that or nothing, that's huge to have.
Right.
That's my perception. A whole day, obviously, is fabulous. We have 3 of them.
Yeah.
Full days. But as far as what we want to do during that time,
well, I'm glad you accomplished, but I'm just, I just want you to have the appropriate amount of time so that we can keep up with our mission, our vision, and our goals.
My frustration is that I have ideas of what I want to have people invited in to talk about, but finding the appropriate people is incredibly
It's a
difficult.
challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could we use, because I know we do use our staff to then teach, it's that person learns and then you teach the rest of them. Can we even have people who, maybe it's not necessarily that they're going to another conference, but they're the ones who are reading this new method, who then come back and you have a discussion and figure out how that might work for your class. I don't know. I'm just
A lot
trying,
of time
I'm the
now-
low budget
So
trying.
so just think about what happened this year. We want to develop a software program for curriculum, mapping, daily lessons, units that can be, so a teacher can be at home, they can be working on a unit along with their colleagues in the same grade level, and they can be sharing information back and forth. That takes a significant amount of time, and you need those chunks of time. It'd be great if we had full days, but contractually and other reasons, we have small chunks of time. The state introduced a whole new
Can't we have
framework.
conversations about that then? Can't we have conversations about doing full PD days then?
You can, but there will be costs associated with that because you can do the half-days within the time on learning that allows you to have half-days and won't cost you paying teachers an extra day for PD, so there's costs associated.
Oh, I
And
understand.
it won't stress the school schedule.
Won't stress the school schedule, but also will be cost savings. The other thing is,
But I guess my concern is just how best are we using those half days to their max? Is there enough accomplished to say it's worthwhile to do a half day?
well, I can speak to that as far as this year.
Mhm.
Our teachers had to realign the science standards with the new STEM, and they had to switch units to grade levels. So some things that were done in 5th that we can do in 3rd type of a thing. And a lot of the time was spent on that. So it took time to share materials, to find new materials. All that had to be done ahead of time before they were able to put it into Atlas Rubicon and be ready for that. So I have to say, I speak to the teachers and get more information for you from what I can gather. The time spent on that was necessary, and they were very productive during that time that they had to do it. So it would have been from like 12 to 3 hours.
I'd also stress that chunks of time like that are valuable. So if you have a 2.5 hour chunk of time, we collect a tremendous amount of data. We've got map testing, we got dibbles, we have special education testing, we have MCAS testing. If we don't create those times, those chunks of time, those 2 hour chunks of time, so that teachers are meeting in teams, digesting that information to inform the decisions about how we instruct children, then we're not moving forward. And so I would like a lot of things to be more ideal, but right now, having those times, it's pretty valuable time, I would argue.
Okay.
Are there teachers that don't? Are the, like in any profession, there are some people that maximize every, I will tell you, I can't tell you how often I have these, to your point, the school day ends at 3 o'clock, and I'll go by many teams in my building, I'm in the elementary school, where they're there till 3:30, 4 o'clock on those days, because you're right, once they get started, it's hard to stop.
It's like DLT too. I mean, once we get
Once-
started, it's.
Yes.
And they don't want to stop either, to that point. That's a good point. They, you know, and then they might, and to your point, then there might be a big break before they have an opportunity to gather together again. So I
And
see.
so
Momentum.
those are just my concerns, is how can we best serve the staff and the students?
Maybe we can cover some of this at the summer
Yeah,
Meeting.
retreat,
the retreat
absolutely.
meeting.
Sounds good.
The other side of the question, what are you thinking about for next year and saying it's in the bag, piece of cake, I'm not worried about it all?
Easy question.
Our sense of culture and community. We have a fabulous long-term sub in second grade who, Ted knows, if I could create a position for her, she just is phenomenal. We should never let her go. And she has gone out of her way to say how much she can see what a community we are, and it's so true. I mean, even, you get grumbly with someone, I mean, it's a building full of women, and you know what? It doesn't matter, because we can kind of, get on each other's nerves, and it doesn't matter because we are a family, and we have a few people who are ill and sick, and that person will not go a night without a meal and with someone checking on them, and 100 cards and well wishes, and we do everything that we can for the kids and for each other, and there's nothing that will come between that.
I always like to say that after so many years, I think that the math is, I'm feeling really good about the math. I spoke to a fifth grade teacher today, and she said we will get through every unit, which is amazing. Took a while to get there, so I'm feeling really good about the math, and the curriculum in general I'm feeling really excited about. And yeah, and just how excited people, this time of year, there's so much. The teachers are working, they're exhausted, there's just so much to do at the end with ending the year, and they come in with the energy every day, and I praise them for that, because sometimes the days can be long, even though the weeks and months can be short.
I wondered if you both might say to staff, you're ready to go next year, even though you're finishing this.
They come in, when you say Jess, energized, again, even now I'm seeing them, they're probably all looking forward to the summer like everybody else is, but they're still keeping it going, keeping the ship afloat.
Keep trying something different. Keep innovating. Keep thinking outside the box. I know the words that they're used, probably overused, but try something different.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, you talked about the stress with kids. I would think that why couldn't we try something a little different? If it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, we learn from it. But no, show the kids that it's okay for us to have a little slip sometimes too, and take some of the pressure off of them. So keep doing the great job you're doing.
Yeah, thank
Great,
you.
great, thank
So,
you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming in.
Done.
They come in, it's an opportunity to say Ted didn't give us enough money.
They
let's
tell
see.
me that every day.
Nancy, I think you're up for a string of things here. So
Fun ride. Couple things.
All right, first is the invitation for bid for the Sutton Water System operations. This went out for bid on May 9th. It's for a 3-year contract from August 1st, 2018 through June 20th, 2021. The proposals were due back May 30th. 2 bids were requested and 1 bid was received. So the bid that we received was from Whitewater and Wastewater Solutions. It came for 3 years for a total cost of $74,553.12. And the amount that we put in for the FY19 budget was $24,076, and this increased our budget by $164. So FY19 will come in at $24,240. FY20 will come in at $24,846, and FY21 will come in at $25,467.12. So I would like to recommend that the committee accept the bid from Whitewater and Wastewater Solutions.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the water system operations bid from Whitewater as recommended by the business manager. Second. And I look, it's the same company we've been using. They're familiar with our systems. We know how they work, and you look at it in 2019, it's going up 0.5%. It's fairly reasonable.
Okay.
So how do we know that we're covered for everything we need? We were trusting them to do maintenance before on a system that they were supposed to know, and we had an issue with the system. So we're trusting
This is
somebody.
fresh water. This is not the wastewater.
It's not the wastewater?
No, this is fresh water. This is
Oh.
the fresh water system. This is the new system
Okay,
that was installed in the building project.
okay. And they're on top of everything? Anything unexpected ever come from them?
Not with the water.
They've been a very good,
I'm
They
just
have-
curious.
no, I mean, overall, they have been very, very good with our school district. Very responsive. They are on hand every single day. The issue with the new freshwater treatment plant is the corrosive nature of chlorine. It wreaks havoc on that building, and so, we just have to look at and make sure we budget enough for repairs on these facilities because of the chemicals that are used.
So
But
we're
they've been very
required to
responsive.
chlorinate the water, the well water?
It's a whole chemical system
So
designed to,
we're trying to neutralize the fact that it was acidic? So
I-
we're introducing like sodium chloride to neutralize it then, or?
I'm not the guy to ask.
I'm just
That's-
curious. And my question then just is, we're paying these people a nice chunk of money. I want to feel, and I want everybody to feel comfortable that we've hired somebody who truly knows what our system's all about.
This is what they do. And I'll also say that the reason why this system was put in place was because of, we didn't have water that we could drink in the school district
Yeah.
when I arrived. And so the community spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building this system. I want you to think about something. They come every day to test this water for $24,000. They're on site every single day, making sure everything is running properly, and they are on call 24/7. So when you think about that, that's not really that big of an expense. It's a big expense, but relatively speaking, to provide drinkable water for our school system 365 days a year for $24,000. I think that's a pretty good one bid,
Yeah.
one
Well,
person
and
bidding
I
for
mean,
the
it's
job.
also good the fact that you just explained it. How many times are we explaining what these bids are all about and what these people are doing?
Sure.
So if we want to be transparent, I think
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely.
That's huge.
Yes.
Okay,
Do
thank
we,
you.
do we know why the other bid was not, 2 bids were taken, but one was not
Is it like
returned?
the
Do we know?
buses?
They were from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I don't know much about them. They were
Okay.
called Construct Connect. I don't know why they didn't
Okay.
submit anything, but.
Interesting.
Okay. Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, terrific.
All right. Next, I have an invitation for bid for our HVAC system, our heating, ventilation, air conditioning, boilers, refrigeration, and temperature controls. This went out to bid at the same time on May 9th. It's for 3 years, from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. Their proposals were due on May 30th. One bid was requested and one bid was received. It's the same vendor that we currently use. It's from MPC Services for a total cost of $45,519 for 3 years. They did it at exactly $15,173 for each year. And FY19 budget, we put in 15,172, so it increased our budget by $1. I would like to recommend that the committee approve this bid from MPC Services.
So if I could just say a couple words about MPC, like Whitewater, MPC was here before I arrived, so was Whitewater. This is again a company that if we need someone here within the hour, they are on our facility within the hour. Now with our new systems that haven't been functioning as well as we would like through the construction project, they have been available to us. I don't like seeing their trucks in our back of our building as often as I see them. However, they are a very responsible company, and they're there. Like I said, within an hour, they'll be on our site to fix anything if something breaks down. They're also the company that put in the new boilers in the elementary school, and those are working very, very well.
So what does this contract cover?
Preventative maintenance.
So they're in how often?
There's a checklist that we have, so we use School Dude, and there's a checklist of things that's part of this bid that they have to do on a scheduled basis. They provide our facility manager a list of the things that they did. Roger checks that, and we put in a School Dude to make sure that it's all done. And so it's, done fall, spring, getting things up and running for the different seasons. Mr. Raymond does all of the replacements, or a lot of the replacements of the filters. They do all of the other preventative maintenance.
I would make a motion to accept the HVAC boiler and refrigeration bid from MPC as recommended by the business manager.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Terrific. Okay, Nancy, you're up for a budget update.
The first thing I'd like to cover is the FY19 budget shortfall. It's the spreadsheet we went over at our last meeting that has a couple updates. So I handed you a fresh copy before the meeting started. So there's been 2 changes since our last meeting. One changes the student athletic insurance policy. So next year's policy has increased by $2,430. So that was an increase to the FY19 budget. The other change is the savings. One of our custodians, Robbie Russell, who's a custodian in the high school, recently announced that he will be retiring.
I thought we weren't saying what a phenomenal job that person's done over the last few years.
40
40
years.
And
40
his dedication
years.
to service, and wouldn't recognize what a, just great contribution to the culture. Okay. I wasn't sure if we were doing that for Robbie or not.
He never took a sick day.
It's unbelievable.
And I didn't say anything because I wanted to respect his wishes, but once at class day, they mentioned it also. I figured I would. It's at the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, he deserves it. So the replacement of his position is actually gonna save us approximately $18,000.
Okay.
So that, I added in a savings to the budget.
Probably take sick days too.
So was the insurance, the athletic insurance was just wrong on the initial one, because you had it as
It wasn't
a
one, they
credit.
increased our premium.
So they increased the premium by $4,800? Because that's what the swing will be. If I'm looking at the old one versus the new one.
Oh, the old one, I took it away, and the new
Yeah.
one, I added it in. So
Okay.
that's why, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the difference.
And this is insurance.
For parents, for the players, for students.
So why
Student athletic insurance.
Why'd they say it increased so much?
So it increased because our loss ratio was at 126% due to the number of claims.
I'm glad I didn't put my claim in then.
Do they
So-
break it out by sport, or do they give you any guidance as to whether or not?
I asked for a little more information, and they said that we've had 10 claims since 2016. So that made a significant difference in the price increase.
And do we know what sports the 10 claims are in?
I didn't ask for the sports. I can, but I didn't ask which ones. That's probably
Be interesting to know.
it would be.
It'd be interesting to know, only in that if we get into difficult times and we have to think about, I just want to understand the differences.
Yeah, I'll ask. Okay. So with those two changes, it brings our total shortfall for our FY19 budget to $172,354. So Mr. Friend and I went through the budget and we went and forecasted out each budgeted line item and calculated where we think we'll end up at the end of this year. We took a very conservative approach in coming up with 225,000. But then we discovered that when you start counting the smaller savings in each of the line items, that the money does add up quickly. So realistically, I think the savings this year will be around 300,000, which is about 1.5% to 2% of the budget.
Okay.
So, I mean, we still have a month left, and we're waiting for invoices to come in, and things can happen. But realistically, I think around 300 is where we're gonna end up.
Are there supplies that we didn't spend, or are there any lines there that,
So one of the things we are looking at is there are a couple of projects that Mr. Raymond has. He has a list of some things. And so we're looking at that priority list, and we're probably gonna knock off a couple of the projects in this current budget. It's a really interesting activity to do that Nancy and I did, because, you know, I teach this graduate class, and I teach finance, and I asked them to do the same activity. When you start taking $800 and $140 and $75 and $1,200, and we went page by page, and you start seeing pages of $3,500, $4,200, $8,000, those chunks of money, they add up very, very quickly. As far as supplies go, materials go, no, we don't need to spend money so we're fine there.
what I'm really wondering is, over the course of the year, were people really careful with the budget, which is great, but potentially chose not to buy materials that would have been to the advantage of the children that were in the budget that didn't get spent?
No. We buy the things that we need. Remember, we're projecting on a budget. We're doing our best guess. But no, I haven't gotten, you know, other than some things that they'd really love to have that we're just not going to get. There was no one in need of certain supplies, materials, at all.
And of this 300,000, how much, what's the sum of the projects for Roger?
Well, Roger has an ongoing list. We went over that not this past Tuesday, the Tuesday prior. So there's quite a bit on the list. I don't know the number offhand, so I don't want to give you a number. But I told him to look at taking $12,000 or $14,000 now and prioritize those things that he'd like to get done and do that work. And by the way, that includes anticipating being around $300,000 remaining. That additional $12,000 or $14,000 that he can work on a project. But I'll give you an example. You know, today he came back, and unfortunately on the new building that's now, you know, we have to spend about $6,000 for a couple of new HVAC components. I forget what the components were, because now they're out of warranty. What were they?
The compressor.
Compressors. So when Roger has something going on, I mean, his facilities, they're big ticket items. By the way, I don't want to scare people. We're in very good shape. The things that are on his list, it's just kind of being proactive in how we go after these things. But we're in very good shape overall.
How about, I don't remember the oil rate. Is it changing next year?
Yes,
Is it going up or down?
up.
And so can we top off the tanks
Sooner rather than later, that's good.
before it goes up?
Yes. Very good. Very good. Oh, excellent.
I always fill the gas tank before I get on a highway.
Good call, Paul.
Summer, yep, that's true.
Okay. council.
So our recommendation, and again, then what we'll bring back to you is when we get the final number, where to put the money. Do we put a portion in school choice, a portion in circuit breaker? But we're recommending that this is where we stop our budget and take additional money from school choice or circuit breaker, whatever this additional money is, and offset this $172,354, and that will be our budget next year, is our recommendation to this board.
My mind drifted.
Yeah.
Can you explain that one more time?
So right now, with all these cuts that are listed on this page, the gap is $172,354,000 from revenue that we spoke about in January. And what we're recommending to close that gap is to take $172,354.23 from the money that's remaining in this year's budget to pay that difference.
And then the remainder of it would just remain in.
Would remain either in school choice or circuit breaker, or probably a combination of the two.
So we looking for a motion on that? Are we there?
Do we need to vote on that?
We're gonna do a final budget.
Budgets.
Which includes that?
I don't know that it does, right? All we're really gonna do is approve the final
Yeah.
budget of whatever it is, 17.3, and I don't think there's anything here.
I don't think there's anything here. I think it's done in the next one, isn't it?
Okay.
It's just, we just call it an update.
Right, we're gonna be asked to approve a final budget, and it's gonna be a final number.
And the funds will be coming from that.
Okay. Correct. But you're going to do that this evening.
Yes.
We'll see.
Okay. So there's nothing else on the budget update. We can move to the final vote on the fiscal year 19 budget.
18 budget, you mean? The year-to-date budget?
I don't know that we did
Nope.
the 18 report. She flipped them, didn't she?
Yeah,
Did I move to?
we haven't done,
We did the 19 shortfall.
well, we haven't gone over the 18.
Now we're going over the year-to-date budget.
Yep.
FY 18 budget.
Do we not have that specifically?
Specific
The way it's
number?
worded.
Oh, number
it's
12.
worded Interesting.
It's the other way.
Because it says the 18 budget update and
Yeah.
then the 19 budget vote.
Oh, so we're doing,
And we've just
Yeah,
done
we've done
the
it the other way.
shortfall.
I think I went out of order.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You
So we're on
messed us
number
up.
12.
So then we do need to vote.
Vote, right.
Yes.
We need to vote because that's gonna become the final budget, and then we talk about where we're at from this
Right.
year.
Okay.
So,
The vote isn't the shortfall page, right?
nope, the vote is the final budget
budget
number,
number.
Yeah.
Right,
which funding is explained here, correct?
the last
Yeah.
of the funding. We were short in the previous one by 172K. The recommendation is to make up the 172K with savings from revolving account this year.
This year.
Yes.
Really, it's make it up with savings from the revolving account,
Yeah.
because this year they'll roll in.
So,
So I guess we need a motion?
But
yes, go ahead.
We can,
what's
we,
that number gonna be?
That's what I just,
Yeah,
but we can make a motion
we're
and open
adding that
discussion,
in.
correct?
Well, let's hear the final number.
sure. Which question would be, what's the number?
hey. So the original budget was $17,528,662. I'm not sure which number you subtract from which year.
I think you take this 172 off of the 17.
I don't understand how it,
So
how come it
so
isn't
it's just the
17,345,723 and 23?
So it's a change, it's a change of 172 from the top current expense.
Yes,
Of the
okay, that's exactly it.
17,528.
Where it was 185
How does that
before.
not turn out to be 17,345,000?
No, I think it's the 17,345
Oh.
from the
Is it?
172.
Yeah, there it is, right there at the bottom. It's It's written,
It's right there.
I mean, at the bottom of the column, is that what you're referring to? The-
17,345, right?
Yeah, but we're still short the 172 from that.
Yes, but that's the budget they're voting. That's the,
Oh, that's the
that's the
number.
budget number.
We're short 172 in revenue, or is,
Oh,
number.
yeah.
No. Well, that's the amount that we need to make up, the 172. So Ted's right.
So it's
It's
the
17,
shortfall
345,
plus the
743.
current equals,
Because we're gonna approve to make up the 172 from school choice.
Right.
So the total budget to be approved is 17,345.
So-
which we won't have to do until we're almost done in 19, because
That was
the school choice funds you're pulling from.
Correct. Correct.
Nothing to it.
Okay.
Everybody clear?
There's gonna be a conversation tomorrow that goes something like, when we put the motion in, Di, could you make sure we put the number in there?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think you did ask me. Yeah. Okay, are we good to move on? Or
Well,
are
no, we
We
need-
need to make a motion and
Sorry.
Make a motion to set the FY 19 budget to $17,345,723.23.
Second.
is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
And everybody who feeds and helps get along. This has really been very, very smooth. Appreciate it.
Okay, so now there's a couple things that I wanted to review in the FY 18 year-to-date budget, which you have in your packet. First thing is on page 18. Under professional development for the elementary school, it shows an overage of $2,238. I just wanted to bring to your attention that this will be transferred into school choice. This is the Atlas Rubicon training that was previously approved by the committee. So that will be transferred out. On page 37, under athletic coaches' salary, it shows an overage of $33,167.25. And this is gonna be transferred into athletic revolving. That's where the salary should have been paid out of. And then on page 45, and if I'm going too fast, let me know. The water treatment plant repair is over. We have discussed this in prior meetings, that this was gonna happen, but just to go over again briefly. Each school is over by $1,071.46, and this was because of needed repairs, such as a booster pump, check valve, a chemical backup pump, and miscellaneous normal repairs throughout the year. So we budget about $2,500 in each of the schools in that line item. And then lastly, on page 52, for employee retirement sick day buyback, this is currently over by $410. So everything has been paid out of this line item at this time, except for the one employee who I mentioned earlier who's retiring, who hasn't taken many sick days. So
Any, is my understanding. 4 decades,
Yeah.
none.
So we will be paying approximately $10,000 out of that line item. So that will be $10,000 over. And that is calculated in the figures that we already discussed.
Okay.
So unless I am done, unless anyone has any other questions in the year-to-date budget that they have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Really good glasses.
Next item is
Have
the
glasses.
NIASC letter discussion.
It's just, look at this.
It is for fashion.
If people recall, we did have our NIASC audit, and one of the items that caused a little bit of irritation was the
We've been
money
saving.
spent on gifts. The committee decided that we would send a letter to NIASC, and just explaining that we didn't truly believe that spending $800 on gifts for people who did an audit was right and just, and several other adjectives. So a letter was drafted from the committee to George Edwards, no relation, at NEASC, thanking him for the visit, and we're grateful for the work that they did. However, we do have some concerns about the money spent on gifts, and asking that they take a look at their practice. While $800 doesn't seem to be a lot of money may not seem to be a lot of money for some, for a school budget like ours, $800 can be used a lot more effectively for the benefit of our students directly versus gifts for those who come every 10 years to audit us.
Yeah, the fact that they recommend gifts, I'm sorry, it diminishes any value behind that. I mean, that pisses me off. That's ridiculous. You know, that's crazy. That's crazy. People should be more up in arms about this. You know, we're spending $20,000 to do this, and it's expected that we do gifts. I don't know. I think the letter's too soft, but I've already written that and said that. I mean, you're praising them up here. I mean, really, the whole letter should be about thank you for coming. However, we're a little disconcerted with the fact that you're recommending gifts.
I think the only way it's going to
There's
change
no
is
free
if
will
they
there.
hear from a number of different schools. So really just calling it to their attention, I think, is great.
Ted, can you poke some other superintendents to send the stuff? Who else is doing NEASC this year?
Well, as I've said in prior meetings, NEASC is under a lot of pressure from the superintendent's organization. We're all a little tired of,
But obviously,
and it's more, NEASC serves a purpose. It's a peer audit of your school system every 10 years. The issue that we all have is the cost associated with it on a number of fronts. They are addressing it slowly, but like most large organizations, it's a slow-moving train. So we are not the only school district that are voicing their concerns with the cost of NEASC.
but how, I mean, just in general for this little thing, how can that be I don't know. I just don't get how, you know, recommending gifts can be a slow-moving train. You just discontinue it, or you just say no.
I think the letter strikes a nice balance with the general tone of the committee. I think it's very direct in terms of asking for action to be taken. I think that there are a fair number of people who volunteered a great deal of time. It's a practice that we all agree they should review and try to find a way to stop it, and we've asked for that.
I like the balance of the letter because I do appreciate what they do. I am frustrated with the idea of the gifts. I mean, it seems like an excessive amount, but at the same time, I realize these people give a lot of their time. I would imagine it's slow moving, but
NEASC should pay them that. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, you know, this, I don't know. I just find this ludicrous.
so as I was saying, I think it's probably slow moving because this happens every 10 years. And I think it's something where you get frustrated when you see it. And the 10 years goes by. I mean, hopefully when this comes around again, things are changed. And hopefully there's enough other schools sending this because I agree, I don't think it's right.
Right.
In this day and age in regards to the gifts.
But everybody's not on this 10-year cycle. We're not all cycling at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, somebody just needs to do something, because this is crazy.
Does this get mentioned, this particular gifts for NEASC, is that something that does get mentioned at your superintendent's meetings?
Well, I attended the big meeting when we had NEASC, and there were about 80 superintendents. You know, this particular item, this has probably been going on for a very long time. This was my first NEASC.
Okay.
I had never been through NEASC. I was an elementary school teacher. It's a high school accreditation. And so I have a little different perspective on it. I just think it's, I think it had its real value when there was no curriculum frameworks, where there were no evaluation expectations in schools across New England. Now we have all of this built into our system, so I think that's what's driving this more than anything. The time and the cost associated overall is the issue for superintendents. Look at how much time we spent.
Absolutely,
Look at,
that's
look
huge.
at, look at these school committee meetings alone, how much time we spent talking about NEASC. And unfortunately, it takes away from the legitimate value of NEASC, and that's what I don't want to lose. I was proposing looking at not doing NEASC because of the $20,000. But would our high school spend a year really being self-reflective to the degree that they were by having that?
Well,
new
I've only
announcement?
seen us do it twice in the last 20 years. Do you want to guess where those were? Seriously, the notion of, we've got to have this ready, we need to take the time right now to do the reflection,
Yep.
comes when it's a deadline that you have to hit. And I've never seen any of the staff or the administrators who have spoken to us in the past about, is this the right money spent? I've never seen any of them after it not say, there was some really good benefit to what happened. I think there's a great opportunity for NEASC to fit better into how education's changing. But I think it's also a different debate, right? We're gonna have to decide, do we wanna pay the annual fee? Do we keep doing that? How much have they changed?
Just one other thing. They recognize all the things we do well, but here's a group of people from across the state or from New England that also identify and say, and gives us some leverage to say, we're not doing these things. And if you want to be at a higher accreditation level, you need to cross these. So it gives us a little bit more leverage with our community about how we need to improve our school district.
They certainly talked about the school building before the school building was approved and built.
But didn't it also reveal all of the things that we expected of it, our shortfalls also, in addition to everything that we're meeting?
Sure.
So then couldn't we use the framework that they gave us to then self-impose that process on ourselves so that we have certain goals and deadlines to meet over the next 10 years that we're all personally held responsible for, that is this?
You could. You'd have to be a very disciplined organization.
Okay.
And I would say by having outside organizations come in,
So it's just the fear of God over you
Well, I
makes you do it. Well, then having, I don't know. I just see having it, that process within your school normally should be part of what we're doing. We should be continually reviewing what we are. It's we do, we evaluate, we do again, we reevaluate. I do that in my professional practice.
and I would say
so-
we do that.
Okay,
They get under your fingernails and under your toenails. They look at, where we're not going to that degree. We take small bites. If you look at the goals, there are small chunks to accomplish. They make you look at everything.
okay. So has it really changed what we do and how we do it?
I believe it will at the high school, yes.
Could we, for the summer retreat, get a recap from Ted McCarthy on some of the things that NEAS pointed out to him that we might, or that the items that they may have discovered that, he can
What I-
focus on, we can focus on, short of getting the NEAS report, but just the item tonight on the agenda is the letter, and I think we're
We're going beyond.
straying very far from
Sorry.
no, but I think it's an important discussion because I have the same sentiments on the
And-
I
NEAS
don't
part.
think the discussion makes sense in the summer retreat, given some of the other items we have, given that the report isn't there and that it likely wouldn't be on camera. This has been an ongoing debate.
You're right, and
I
it's,
think it should be a topic for discussion. I'm just not sure.
When the report is released.
When does the report come out?
There'll be a draft report. I'm not sure when that, probably in the next, well, it takes a little bit, but we'll probably have a draft report sometime this summer, and that allows us to go through and correct it. And I agree that having this conversation on television, I think is vital.
Yeah.
If you're gonna spend 20 grand, we should be talking in front of the community of Sutton about what the results were, the areas that we need to improve upon, and all of the positive things that come out of this audit as well.
Okay. Okay.
It
So-
says, sorry, it says no motion.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say, is it says no motion, but I think that we need to, I think we need to
a motion
agree
to
that there's a
approve
motion
a letter.
appropriate to,
Yeah, well, in part, it provides people the opportunity to say, no, I don't think the letter's strong enough, I don't approve, but it, you know, you get a sense of where the committee is.
So I will make a motion to approve the letter to NEASC on behalf of the school committee as presented.
Second.
is there any more discussion on that?
Nope.
All those in favor of sending the letter as written?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
Aye.
I have a technical question. It says here yours, very truly yours, Sutton School Committee, Paul Brennan Chair. Should we keep it as Paul Brennan Chair, or should now it be Bruce Edwards Chair?
Under duress.
601.
It's true.
It's from the Sutton School Committee. If you want to update that, I don't think it makes,
It was,
I got it.
you were chair at the time.
If you've got,
could do
if
it
you've
either
got
way.
a letter and it can be put in an envelope tomorrow,
I can
that's fine.
sent it, and then the next minute, they took them off.
You were chair when the audit came.
We'll go with that.
That's what I think of it as, an audit.
It's, there, nothing good can come from a letter with two Edwards on it, signed by one and sent to another. I've been down that road before, so.
Family Feud.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the superintendent's evaluation. It's the annual end-of-cycle evaluation. Each member of the committee was sent the form to respond. Everybody's comments and ratings were forwarded to Paul, who collated everything and has come up with a final draft of the ratings and the comments. I'd just like to say, Paul, thank you. I have struggled with this in the past and how it was done, and I'm very happy to see that for each goal, the individual ratings were listed, how many for each. I think that's important for, I think that's important for Mr. Friend to see. I think that's important for the committee to see, that there are varying degrees of understanding of how it's done, and I think everybody has a different scale and a different weighting, but I'm very happy with how this turned out and how it was compiled, and if anybody has any other comments or,
Thank you for reading through
So.
all of that, Paul. Your time's coming.
Thanks for the
Here.
reminder.
yeah, so.
That's the hardest thing, is seriously, right now, send me your eval. I would say it's been an absolute pleasure. It's in summary and it becomes record, and I hate doing evaluations. I hate getting evaluations. I can't imagine getting an evaluation on camera as the news is here maybe, and I'll say Ford tells Ted he needs to tie his shoes differently or something like that. It's all that put aside, we have had several years of a very smooth organization where we have our troubles, but the bumps are addressed. That I think we've had a better picture of finances. We've had more productive debate around what we do. We've stayed more focused on the kids than other times, and that's a function in large part to sort of the one person we put in place, Ted. So thank you. and then in an even larger part to the administration and staff, and all of the people that he has put together and provided leadership to. So I just think it's really been excellent. I'm not sure if I said that, but I'll finish it with, it's really been excellent. I think it's been great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, all that, and I think your evaluation is often a reflection of how the district's doing, because they go hand in hand, and so it's, yeah, thank you for yet another good, great year.
I know there's no motion, so I don't know what the next step is.
I think there
Has this
should be.
been sent?
Frankly, there should be a motion, I believe, that it's an evaluation from the committee, and again, those who agree or disagree, but then there's one that he has.
Okay. That said, does anybody like to make a motion?
So I will make a motion to officially submit to record the evaluation of superintendent from school committee.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Oh.
All those in favor of the administrator end-of-cycle evaluation as written?
Aye.
Terrific.
Don't let it get to your head. There's next year, we could write a bad one.
Thank you.
Ted, do you have any questions?
I want to say that one of the things that's been unique in Sutton is the stability of this community. If you start with Jim Smith, who's been here now for 10 years, the select board, the school committee. I talked to my colleagues. I talked to one colleague, he said 27 school committee members in the last 4 years. It's a revolving door. We have had this, what have we had? 7 or 8 school committee members since I've been here? That's phenomenal. And I think that that's what, it's not just me. I mean, we have consistent, steady leadership across the board in this community. And I think it bodes well for the town of Sutton as a whole, that there is that level of stability. And it proves itself when you look at budgeting and other areas. But I thank all of you for staying on board as long as you have. It makes my life a lot easier. So thank you.
Next item is superintendent's update.
So the SEFT has really, first of all, I want to thank the SEFT members that have been on board for the last 6 years. And they really did their best to get up and running. And they carried us to this next group, a next wave of parents that have come on board. They have a full slate of fundraising activities for next year, which is very, very exciting. And they came to me and they talked to me about what they don't want to do is step on the toes of other fundraising things. And what they're really focused on is doing fundraising that's fun, adult fun. And so the gala that we had last spring, they're going to do again. There was great feedback from that. We have Sarah Stone and Tina Lambert are the chair and co-chair. They are very driven. It's very, very exciting. And just one other thing that they're looking to do is they want to simplify the grant writing process. One of the problems with grants is you make people jump through too many hoops for $1,500 and they just say it's not worth me wasting all this time doing this. So they're going to simplify the process to make it easier for teachers to come in and write grants. So it's very, very exciting. As I mentioned before, they finally get the total from that first fundraiser. They made over just over $18,000 on their first fundraiser. So there's going to be a nice event in the fall. An adult event similar to that event in the fall, and they'll be there in the spring, and then they're going to have some kid events throughout the year as well as fundraisers. So you're making money, but people are having a good time doing it, which is, you're not asking people to buy things, you're asking people to have fun and raise money in the process. So very, very exciting. It's taken a while, but we're there. Class day and graduation. It is beautiful. I don't know the words to describe class day, and when you see teachers being recognized by students and teachers brought to tears, I'm in the front row and I'm crying at the class day because it's so empowering to be in this profession it's a heart profession as much as a brain profession, and to see students talk about their teachers the way they do, and then to the Bailey Award, you hear the descriptions of these kids and what they're doing at 17 and 18 years old, how mature they are and how immature I was at that age, and to think how mature so many of these kids are. It's wonderful. And graduation, it's when you see, well, I don't want to mention names, because if I mention names, I leave people out, but it is like clockwork. The speeches are wonderful. I love the fact that it's not adult controlled. The students decide who the speakers are going to be. The students do the speaking. It's not the superintendent getting up there anymore unless they ask me. I'm glad they haven't asked me in a while. It's not Mr. McCarthy up there. It's really about the kids and their families. It was just perfect. I really enjoyed that. And the only other thing tonight that I want to talk about is, I gave you a draft agenda. Mr. Brennan and I talked about coming up with a list of some topics that we may want to explore. And the first one was developing, or at least talking about, the process of building a 3 to 5 year budget. Now, we've projected out salaries. So what I think we'd like to talk about is, what's your vision of, like, how do you want us to, projecting out salaries is easy. Then how do we manage the other pieces of the budget, and how would you like that to look? So that as we go into next year, to add into what we did this year, if we can add into our budget presentation a 3 to 5 year budget projection that marries up what we did this year, I think it adds another piece to what we're looking to do in growing our budget discussion. Tied to that is, I think some things we talk about is, how do we make sure that what we're doing with professional development, with our curriculum work, like all of this work for Atlas Rubicon, how do we make sure that it's rigorous enough? How do we make sure that it's meeting the standard? How are we doing all those things? So to talk about, and I'll come to you with a job description, and we'll talk further about what those roles and responsibilities could potentially be if we can afford to do this. And part of that, why that ties to the 3 to 5 year, is because we want it to be sustainable. We don't want to do something and then turn around a year or two later and say, we can't afford this. We want to make sure it's sustainable. Transportation, I think it's important that we bring, we mentioned at a meeting a month ago, I think it's important to spend some time talking about the numbers and looking out at what makes sense long-term for transportation. I'm talking in-house transportation. We seem to get caught up, and this is what Paul and I talked about, the BVT versus Sutton schools, and how do we address that? How do we talk about that? I feel like sometimes we're dragged into a conversation that takes us in different, so I think we want to talk about that at that retreat.
Agreed, because that kind of took me aback, what we asked at FinCom, basically, why Sutton there? Well, also, you're looking at a budget that's $6,000 per student beyond what ours is. So,
But-
I mean, that the fact that they're asking me that, or asking us that, concerns me.
No, I know.
There's clearly
But-
energy to talk
yeah,
about.
that's what I mean. Your example is the exact point of why we have to do that.
We may not.
We did our community survey, so we have that. We'll review this community survey.
Is that closed?
It's closed.
It is closed, okay.
Yep.
It's closed, yep.
What
Yeah.
kind of response did you get?
We should do that at like the next meeting, huh?
No, but did you, good response, bad response?
We'll just send you, we'll send you the results of the survey. Di, when Di's off this week.
Okay.
She came in today as a special guest for us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Di.
Thank you, Di.
But we'll send you the results. Now, you guys can have them so you can look it over. Policy update. I mean, there's 100 pages of policy changes.
It's 142.
142.
I've got that with all the.
And so, not that we're gonna talk about policy, other than over the next year, how are we gonna kind of roll out these updates is kind of what I think we talked about. And then just housekeeping. I think that's a full day.
Yeah.
So we
I
just
think in particular, it's not about making decisions on those. For me, I think it's very, very important that the summer retreat is a useful tool, but it's not about, let's make a decision. It's about understanding what's happened, do some reflection. What are we doing in the meetings to come? How do we address something like policy?
Direction for the year.
Direction, yeah,
So it's not a
Strategy.
decision-
conversation.
Not a decision or discussion on specific policies, but a discussion around how do we address lots of policy change.
Perfect.
Yeah, I gotta sign one of these.
All right.
Oh, just one other thing. You all have that in front of you. Is that order look okay to everybody?
I think that's,
Yeah.
from my end, I think that's good, because I think the longest discussions are gonna be the things in the morning,
Morning, yeah.
which is best, and, yeah, I think
That's
so.
Excuse me, where did you want to add in the PD discussion? Someone mentioned earlier to add that to the
Professional
agenda.
development.
Is that right?
Again, I think that's a great one for energy for the camera, unless there's something pressing
Yeah.
that we, because in part, the PD discussion goes hand in hand with the schedule, or the calendar.
Yeah.
Right? We're not changing next year's calendar, I don't think, unless.
No.
Then we got time. Sorry, I'll stop doing that eventually.
I need help, so it works.
My family is watching, I don't know
Is
why,
there-
they're saying no, he won't.
Any new business agenda items or action items?
Can I make one request? Can we, I know we sort of ended the whole thing with the, I don't know if you want to call it independent study. Can we just get an update of where that's starting in September? You know, what the whole plan is in place? Did we go over that already?
We have.
Yeah.
Several times.
Okay,
I think we're in a good place.
okay.
I
But
do.
it's still not, it's still, I don't know, I at least think it's still a little restrictive in how we're dealing with it.
So could I make a recommendation that we invite the principals in the fall? They come in usually around October, I
Can we have them
believe.
sooner than that?
We can.
Go ahead.
To do, I don't mind when they come in, I'm just not sure, are we trying to change something that's going on next, or we just wanna have a feel? Because if you bring them in to September, not much is gonna have occurred.
Right,
Some
right.
of the logic of October is they've had a chance to get the year going.
Because we're not changing anything.
No, I'm
on-
not looking for change, I guess it just, I mean, over the summer too, it's also a time when you can reflect on, all right, this is what we're doing. I'm thinking we may need to reevaluate this, I mean, that's
But
just
if
me.
we get to the end of October or first week in November, we'll now have a semester under our belt of when they've started the course.
Uh-huh.
Where are we with the independent study? How many kids did independent study? How many did it the traditional way? How many did it through the course? How many virtual high school courses did we had to exceed 25 to make sure everyone's schedule worked? So you'll have a lot more information than
Okay.
if we did it.
And we'll also know
September.
then who didn't end up getting what they need? Or do we already know that?
They should know
We
that
should already
now.
know that.
Oh, we would know that now.
So-
And there's still, that'll still be tweaking out over the next
Right, but,
month.
yeah, and even as the school year begins, we'll kind
Sure.
of have a.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to know who we're not serving, because I just get concerned that we're losing kids that we need to not lose. You lost mine, and so that makes me an angry parent, and so I want to see what we can do to make this better for kids. As
Sure.
we talked about this, you know, education's evolved to the point where we're still teaching from the 50s. we're in the 21st century, so
Mhm.
we're a good 60 years behind. So how do we make it better for kids? How are we better preparing them? How are we better preparing them for the world? Because obviously, they're stressed to the max, so we're still missing stuff.
I think we can get for an early meeting next year, we'll be able to get hard numbers on
Can we have
if,
some?
if what you're asking, I think what you're asking is the same thing I've been curious about, and is kids are given an opportunity to choose electives. How many kids got their first choice for electives? If we can get hard numbers on that. And as for the independent study part, I know there's this new class coming up, and I've heard how it's going to be taught, and I may actually experience it live. I'm not sure yet. It's still to be determined. But I think the way it was explained, you have to go through the first semester to see how things is because it's new, how it pans out, and so that would be the end of October, beginning of November. We can get an update from Mr. McCarthy or who's ever teaching the class.
It'll be a bumpy road,
to
right.
find out how what worked and what didn't work.
Great idea to get an update and
Yeah.
look at. I also think we've made a lot of changes, and so to understand how those changes have taken place. I would say, I don't think our district and any school is 60 years back. I don't think that for a moment.
Okay.
I think that we learn and we improve, but we're not 60 years back, and maybe a boiler, but I think we replaced those recently also.
I'm just concerned that's it.
I'm
I know.
all for concern, I'm all for the time we spent, the changes we made, making sure those changes helped, and then making additional changes if they're suited. But I don't think it's, well, as I said, I think we're making great progress.
Yeah, and can we have one of the students come? I'd love to hear what the kids have to
I
think about.
I think when the kids come up and present, it has a very different tone.
That's what we're doing this for.
Yep.
They need to have feedback in the process. How can you have passion if you're being directed all the time? I realize there
As
is
we
some
get
direction,
closer,
but
you remind me, and I will have, it makes a better meeting.
yeah, I want to know how everybody's going. So you don't know what to ask if you don't truly understand both sides and what's going on.
Okay. Are there any other new business items? Do we have a meeting scheduled for the 18th of June? Do we need to hold that meeting?
I don't think so.
So
I think
our next meeting will be
July 16th.
July 16th.
At the school?
That's the,
That'll be in my conference room at 8 a.m.
that's
Perfect.
not public.
Got you in there.
It is a public
It's a
meeting.
public meeting, it's
public
just not
meeting.
televised. That's what I mean.
Okay.
It's a summer treat.
Yeah, people more than welcome to come.
Okay. I would just ask, we take a lot of notes, so I'll try to write a little faster as we go through the meetings this coming year. But I do review these and prep for meetings that way. So it's not that I'm not listening, it's just that I do, I forget things, so I've got to write an awful lot.
We're gonna learn to ask the good questions as you start to.
Now, the next thing is I got to learn to write so that I can read it easily. But terrific. If there's nothing else, we need a motion to,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I just need those two signatures.
Yep.
Nice job, congrats.
Nice job, Bruce.
There you go.
Do we have numbers on DET yet?